Hello, everybody. So excited to be here. My name is Star Lutzis, and I am with Aligning Purpose Publishing. Today, we have Melody Woods. She has just released her new book, Unlocking Your Healthcare Mysteries. Thank you so much, Melody, for being here. I'm excited to talk about your book today.
Thank you so much, Star.
So, what I really love about Unlocking Your Healthcare Mysteries is you really just open up that curiosity for us to start understanding our health, right, and noticing how maybe if we feel a certain way, it's not necessarily random, right, but that it's like it might be leading to other things. Um and I know that you had you come from a line of chronic health issues. And I'm wondering if you could just kind of just start and just tell us a little bit about your history and then what got you to writing Unlocking Your Healthcare Mysteries.
Well, yeah, I grew up, my mom, my grandma both had several autoimmune conditions and then obviously chronic health conditions. And then myself, starting at a very early age, started on that same line. And then eventually I got cancer in my late 20s. And, I lived with that for 15 years before I got even more autoimmune and chronic conditions that kind of just all of a sudden, just out of the blue, like piled upon me. And I wasn't given much resources from the hospital that day. And so I kind of had to like wait to doctors and, just the way the healthcare system is now, you just kind of like have to wait until you can get in, and then you kind of have to figure it out in between. And I just, like I couldn't deal. So I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I knew if I even followed any of the same choices, because I did kind of sort of mirror my mom a little bit on some of the conditions. If I went that route, I knew what had happened to her and how much suffering she went through. And so I was like, there has to be a new medicine. There has to be something new out there. There has to be another way around this, to tackle it. And that's when I kind of went all in and asking the questions that I still had answers to, and things that kind of looked very similar to my mom or my grandma, and then started, looking at our history and piecing those pieces together. And eventually, on my journey, I knew I was on the right path. Once I got my first cancer-free diagnosis, at my 18-year mark of living with cancer. And diving in further, I eventually ended up saving my, thyroid from radioactive iodine. And a lot of people started seeing the transformation, my coloring, my health, and started asking me questions like, well, what are you doing different? And I just started like, okay, maybe I should write a book. And they're like, oh yeah, definitely. And so, everybody, needs this if they have an autoimmune condition, to be able to look at the pieces in their health to see what's going on with them, to know what steps that they need to take and what questions or doctors they need to connect with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very inspiring, just to hear about, how you beat cancer after 18 years. That in itself is a long journey every day for 18 years, right? And then to finally get
Yes.
that diagnosis of like you're cleared,
Mm-hmm.
after and from reading your book, I know, right, that you put in time and energy into this healing, right? You talk about knowing your numbers and finding the right doctors and all of that. And definitely more people need to realize what am I eating, what is my health like, to kind of even prevent from getting to that stage. So I think that is awesome. um Now you have an entire chapter called Dealing with the Emotions of Autoimmune and Chronic Health Crisis. Um, and, somebody who had, been, your mom was chronically ill. You then, were chronically ill. So what it's like to have these balances of emotions, right? And
Mm-hmm.
especially going into the holidays, where, and you talk about this a little bit in your book of like, people not necessarily inviting you, or, kindly telling you don't have to come, right?
Right.
And how to manage that, where it's like you still want to show up, or maybe you feel like you're a burden, and how to kind of keep going. And so I'm just wondering, like, what would you recommend? What would you kind of say? Someone's in front of you, they're also struggling with a chronic health issue around the holidays. How would you encourage them in their emotions?
First, show up anyway, because a lot of the emotions that you're feeling are kind of put upon you because the other person can't deal with theirs. So it's not like they don't want to invite you, or, that doctor may be coming to you and saying, well, you really should stay home. You really shouldn't go do XYZ, whatever your condition is. And those are all, yes, recommended. And yeah, you might should have to do those, but you kind of also have to weigh, like, what are you giving up emotionally by not partaking into those things? Because each time that you start listening to that negativity of you shouldn't do this, you can't go here, and everybody else's feelings, you kind of start losing some of your own spirit and value, um, and just what makes you part of, living and being a person. And, because you're already struggling with all those conditions and how bad you already feel in your body.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice. That's good advice, is showing up anyway, is what you're saying. That's, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, Now you have another chapter in your book, and it's called Liver and Spleen. And what I really took away from this chapter was, you had mentioned, okay, the liver does, I don't know, I think it was like 500 functions, or a lot, right?
Yes.
And but if you abuse the liver, right, or if toxins and chemicals and things like that are coming into the liver, it could then overflow, and then goes into like other organs, right? And how
Yes.
your spleen cleans your blood, and like the liver brings glucose to the brain. Like, I love, like, there's so much good stuff in your book. And I'm just wondering, like, what would you say to somebody who maybe they're feeling super overwhelmed, right? Like, let's say they are feeling, all of my organs feel like they're overused. And then the overwhelm of like where to start and how to keep going. What would you sort of give advice to this person?
Well, definitely you need to pick your biggest gut feeling that you have as far as where you should start. That's really a key component, whether you're working on trying to find that connection in your health, or trying to find that doctor, to looking at what foods you should be eating. Focus on one area, and then start, if you're working with just the food component, start looking at if you are having that overwhelm with all the organs kind of feeling like they're out of whack. Look at other foods that maybe you're not eating, or food issues in general, as far as sensitivities go, how to bring in food to help balance those areas out.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Starting with maybe the most extreme,
Hmm.
to kind of helping stop that, and then kind of moving forward. Now, this also kind of leads me into another chapter I wanted to talk about. Was you have a chapter for fear in your health, and you know also what I love about uncovering, or what unlocking your healthcare mysteries, is that every chapter you don't have to read the book in order. You can literally just go to the chapter that you need the most help with.
Hmm.
And I love that, how it just stands alone. And so, like, with the fear, right, and it's just like, knowing what you're going through. Um and I had written a question. Let me see what I had here. Okay, yeah. So you have a whole chapter on how fear can manifest itself in destructive ways into your body. And I would imagine that, you know, even when you're getting new diagnosis, right, or continually like watching your numbers and figuring out, okay, what you're eating and how your lifestyle is, fear is going to just, I would imagine still, right, be popping up
Right.
into your mind. And what are some like maybe like a tip or two that you go to when that fear starts to kind of cripple up to just make sure that it doesn't affect itself in your body?
Well, one of the things I actually pay attention to, because sometimes, we're just living busy lives, so we're just go go go. I'm that type of person. I'm just a doer, so I'm always busy doing things. So I don't even sometimes recognize stress or fear until I get some kind of ache or pain or some kind of inflammation, some kind of trigger. So that's kind of the reason why I wrote the, looting your tells, because it kind of plays right into that. Because if you're not paying attention, they're very subtle clues. And if you're not listening because you have all that noise around you, um, you're not going to see stress. You're not going to see fear for really what it is in your actual body. And the fear component, I actually wrote that for a good friend that was struggling with their health, because they weren't seeing all the options they had out there, and seeing that the more stressed out that they got, the more thoughts that they were feeling of going through their own health condition, that was all weighing on their energy level, which was pulling down their immune system. So every little thing does play a part in your overall building your immunity. A lot of people, even including myself in the early days, didn't think that you could build your immunity. It was either you had good genes or you didn't have good genes. And if you didn't, you were kind of screwed. And I'm here to tell you it's something that you have to continually be consistent in building.
Yeah, that is great advice. Um, and I would love to hear more, a little bit more on the tells, right? Because you have a whole chapter on learning the language of tells, and I thought that was really cool just to like pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how did you get to realizing you had tells? And then how did you kind of like discover that that was like, you know, everybody has them as well?
Yeah, well, it was something my mom kind of taught me early on through her health conditions. Something that she was really good at, because she eventually became diabetic, and because of all of her health conditions, um, and it got to the point where she was on both kinds of insulin, and she could tell us kids, because we were pretty little. She was able to tell us kids when she needed help, and she would know without checking her blood sugar. And she would even pretty much know which insulin to go get her, um, because of how she felt. And so when I was going through my health breaking down in 2018, and my one of my big conditions was being anemic, and then also being hyperthyroid, um, I actually had to start listening to that, because, I was reacting to food. I was, reacting to all kinds of things that were normal like 5 days before, that just weren't normal now. And so I kind of, challenged myself. It's like, can I do what my mom did? And can I pay attention? Do I know? So like I got to the point where I knew what my blood pressure was and how high it was before I would ever need to go to the doctor, and it's like, hey, we need to go check labs. There was a lot of things that I built upon in learning my tells, from, a sore throat, knowing that it was a food allergy, that there was a chemical in the food that was a trigger, to a runny nose or sneezing or something like that. All those little things played a big part in helping me build my immunity, which was my overall goal. So yeah, it's something everybody can do, but you kind of have to quiet the mind, and um work on your stress level to kind of hear and see what your triggers are, because each of us has something different. But it's definitely manageable and definitely doable.
Yeah, and I would imagine once you get to that point, it somehow becomes maybe a little bit lighter, right? The
Oh
load that
yeah.
you're kept
Yeah,
covering
yeah,
carrying.
you're know it. it'd be like, something commonplace. You're come in contact with something and you're just gonna know, like,
Mm,
it has XYZ in it. Once you kind of start knowing like what you're coming in contact to, you kind of have it just be instinct. You don't even think about it.
right. And this would, I would imagine, also help you advocate for yourself and your health when you're going to your doctor, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's been many times I've gone to my doctor, um, and I'll say, "Hey, can we check these labs?" And they're like, "Well, why?" And I'll be like, "Just humor me. I want you to tell me that I'm wrong, and
Right.
tell me that I'm crazy." And 9 times out of 10, they'll come back, "Well, how did you know? Like, you're spot on." And um, it's just because I've gotten to that point where I instinctively know what the sign is, know what the feeling is, that I can head off a crisis before it ever happens.
Right, right. And you have a whole chapter on finding the right doctor. So I'm just, and one thing you said was in it something along the lines of like, it's okay to fire your doctor, right? Which
Yes,
I think would then
I have fired many of them. I've had appointments and I've canceled them, because at the end of the day, it's our hard-earned money and we should be having them work for us.
mm,
And it's something had seen with my mom was she'd go to the doctor, and this was from a child's perspective. She was going to the doctor and, she was doing everything that they told her to do, but she was never getting better. And when I was in those same positions, and I'm like, these are unacceptable answers. Like, we're not moving forward. I'm moving backwards. You know, we got to go find somebody else. I mean, I kind of went to extremes a little bit because I really had some doctors really on me when I was going through my cancer stuff and my cancer treatments, of saying, well, you really need to, do XYZ. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing chemo. No, these are not the right options for the type of surgery, and I had actually early on faced, um, you know, work, planning my death, because those were all unacceptable outcomes to me being at 26 and the life that I wanted to build. And if the outcome was still going to be the same, no matter what I did, then I was going to choose to live my best life as I had it, because I'd already seen my mom and my grandma go through that same situation. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend 25 years feeling like crap. If I have five, I have five. And lo and behold, I'm healthier now than I've ever been in my
right,
entire life. So
right,
definitely doable. Um, you know, there were so many resources, so many doctors out there, and so many different types of medicine.
right.
And don't discount the different types of medicine. Um, a lot of our medical community is into specialties, which is great. Um, but a lot of them, because they're a specialist, only focus on that one area. And definitely the thing I've learned with my health is that everything is connected. So if one part of your body is failing, there's definitely an equal balance on the other side of your body that has that same stressor that it's going through. You're just not seeing it or feeling it yet. Or it could be the first part that triggered what you're currently going through.
Yeah. Wow, that is good. And it's really cool because you've survived cancer after 18 years, right? By listening
Yes.
to your body, your intuition, by trying things out. Um and I think that's great. And now you've written this book, and it's going to help so many people on to know, okay, I've been sick for so long with this, how do I help myself, right? And you're
Yes.
giving them these guides. So now the last chapter in your book is what can you do next for your health. So now people have heard what you have to offer. They're ready, they're excited. And what would you say is like that next step for folks?
Well, if you've read the book, I have free resources, so definitely check those out. And you can set up either through the website or through support at chronichealthnetwork.com and schedule a free call. And we can go from there. I work with a lot of people one-on-one. And one of my favorite things I like to do is to dig into the health, dig into your mystery, and um, help you make those connections that you're not seeing, that the doctor's not seeing, and helping you find the right resources that you need, whether you're looking for a particular type of health coach. My focus is more autoimmune and research, and working with stress, helping you build that connection. But there's so many different health coaches out there that are definitely niched, and there's so many doctors out there that do different, getting into the root cause, working on combining the traditional medicine and working on alternative therapies and building it together for you, with the end goal in mind of helping you get off of medicine, helping you live your best life, or taking less. So there's a world of medicine out there. You just need to know when to pivot and be, where you need to go next, and not be afraid of the no. Just keep checking people off your list.
Yes, so encouraging, Melody. So encouraging. Okay, so I would say one is thank you so much for coming on, for writing your book, for being a powerhouse to so many people. And what would you say is like your number one takeaway that you want somebody reading your book, seeing this interview to take away?
There's still hope. You're still living, you're still breathing, so you definitely can change the conversation of your health. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't.
That's good. There is still hope. All right. Melody, how can we connect with you and get more hope?
Contact support at chronichealthnetwork.com.
All right, sweet, sweet. And we will have all those links for you in the comments. Again, thank you so much, Melody. I'm Star with Aligning Purpose Publishing, and we'll talk to you guys soon.